And you just heard Greg there because this is our very special week for the carnival. We're going to have two shows because we have our Halloween special on Thursday on the 31st and this Monday's show. But Greg, it's October. He messed with the wrong person and was turned into a frog, and we just heard him scampering about. So if somebody could get him for the next show, maybe Steve Litvak, kiss him. You won't get a prince or princess. You'll get a drummer, though. But in the meantime, I'm very thrilled to have as my guest, and I discovered her just walking on the canal, finding the frog house. Somebody said, "Hey, do you love frogs?" I go, "Yeah." So, and I was talking to her, and she's brave enough to be on the carnival. I'd like to welcome Margot Fass here.
Hi, everybody. So fun to be here, and we love having visitors every Sunday afternoon from 1 to 5, although October 27th will be our last day for the season, and then we'll open again at May, on the first weekend in May. However, you can be sure there will be lots of activities going on before then, and we'll hear all about them.
Now, I have to ask, why frogs? What got you into this? Was it like a St. Paul on the road to Damascus thing where you were walking and one hop by and you're like, I love them.
It was something like that, actually, because I was an adult. It wasn't that I remember being enamored of frogs when I was a child, although I grew up in the country. It was that I was working at the Hungerford with the Main Street artists, and then I was working in another studio, and for reasons that I can't explain, I started painting frogs, painting images of frogs more and more, and did a book. And then my late husband, gave me an article by Elizabeth Colbert having to do with the sixth extinction. And as I read it and realized that these little creatures have survived disasters for gillions of years, I mean, way before the dinosaurs, they've survived every single hurricane and tornado and earthquake and tsunami and freezing and warming. Very sturdy little creatures that they are going extinct now. About 600 species, I think, have gone extinct. The rate of extinction has gone up by about 50%. I mean, by 50 times in the last 10 years, and that's not normal. They're dying and being threatened or endangered at an extraordinarily and ridiculous rate.
But I was wondering, too, that you just mentioned it. And on this show, a lot of times, just good conversation, I'll just say to look it up. When did frogs come about, like in terms of pop up on Earth, basically, like around, you know?
Yes, as I said, before dinosaurs. I'm not great at all the different eras, but they were literally before the dinosaurs, and they survived the meteor strike that killed the dinosaurs. And speaking of meteors, one of the fascinating things about that I read was that in South America, all the colored frogs, even though the color comes from or their poison comes from ingesting poison insects, they actually got their color from that meteor strike.
I love those kind of facts and how evolution goes. And that's one thing I have to interject for a second because it's, okay, one of my pet peeves, it's about reptiles. There is, and I hate when people say this like for snakes, there's a big difference between venomous and poisonous.
Yes,
but when anybody says poisonous snake to me, it ruined a movie for me and it ruined a book recently because you should know better.
I think it's poison, you die, and venom.
Well, partly what it is venom has to be injected. Like, you have to get, like, where, like, something like if you touch it, you rub your finger on a dart frog or you ingest it, it's poison. I think Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but that's just one of my pet peeves. I don't like it. One of my friends who's very intelligent said it to me last week. It's poisonous. No, it's not.
Well, I'm not all that intelligent, I wouldn't say, or at least I have short-term memory problems. But there was a little saying in the herpetology master class about poisonous this and venomous that.
So I know the whole coral snake one, red on black, I'm all right, red on yellow kills a fellow. But that's only in anybody who's traveling. It's only in North America. The different varieties of coral snakes elsewhere don't. Because I've been running into milk snakes lately. And I try to get them off the path on the canal, like shoo them off just because I don't want them to get run over. And they're like, but I haven't seen like one that looks like full coral snake yet. But there was this huge, after we saw your frog house, I looked it up, like the world's largest frog ever, because like some of those statues out there I can't remember the name of it. But it was
the Goliath frog?
That's it. That's the one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, in Africa. A very big frog. And then there are the teeniest frogs in the world that are smaller than a dime.
It's amazing, but we were talking a little about one of my favorites is the pixie frog, which is no pixie. It is if you ever see it, it's like another misnomer there for pixie because it's a handful. It's a big frog.
Well, the frogs here in western or central western New York are not endangered or threatened or extinct, but if you go to Mendon Ponds in the mating season, there are very few, much fewer frogs than there have been. They just are being decimated gradually by human activity.
And I will say, too, you can walk...
Reptiles, too, and turtles, too. All wildlife and human beings are threatened by the same things that amphibians are. Amphibians are keystone species and also bioindicators. So what happens to the little frog happens to us.
And I could say, too, I always go for a walk after. So if you go by, just walk down the path by our studio, there's a plaque with some frogs on it. And you said, I think you have something to do with that.
Well, God bless Bill Smith, the superintendent of the town of Pittsford. He did say that Frog Pond Trail was named after a frog house. I don't know. And those 4 ponds there in the Erie Canal Nature Preserve may or may not have been used by Ward Scientific to raise frogs for dissection. If that was the case, we're having some wonderful justice for the frogs since they're no longer being raised there. And I think with AI and computers that killing wonderful little animals is no longer necessary.
Oh, it brings back probably, if it does for me and probably many of my generation before, the horrors of high school biology class.
Yes.
And I was always an animal person like that, and I used to say, I just didn't like it.
Yeah, that's a true story. But those ponds may have been used for raising aquatic plants. I'm not sure. But in any case, that brings us in our rambling discussion to the topic of why those ponds of themselves are not suitable for breeding for amphibians. To the right of them or to the east of them, there are some wetlands where there are plenty of, or at least some frogs breeding. But amphibians need, except for the bullfrog, need vernal ponds. Those are also known as ephemeral ponds, and they dry up during the summer, but they're wet during the winter, spring months when amphibians breed. And what the advantage is that there are no predators there. Even the bullfrog, which is a predator, can't breed in an ephemeral pond because its life cycle is 2 years rather than the few months that the smaller amphibians need for breeding. So that's why we're trying to put in some vernal ponds into the Robert C. Corby Arboretum and Wildlife Sanctuary. We have been raising money since this spring when the project was approved by the village board, and we are undergoing a lot of efforts to try to raise more money. We are having a gala on November 9th. You guys are all invited. We're having some wonderful Broadway stars there. And we raised money from the Froggy family birthday party. It was our 6th annual birthday party. And people can donate freely for the vernal ponds. We have a great poster of before and after If you've been in the Robert C. Corby Arboretum, as you walk in to the lower level near the DPW, which has been closed off, you'll see very uninteresting and very unattractive gravel spread over plastic, which is an attempt to solarize the invasive plants there. Invasive plants work havoc with natural plants, natural flora, which are necessary also for the native insects and pollinators that our amphibians live on. So we're all one. You and I are one. You and I are one with the stars. Our cells imitate the universe, and it's hard to say us versus them when we know that we're all made of the same dust.
And I was going to ask, I actually don't know this, what are the lifespans of frogs, and what would be like, if you could think of it, what would be like the longest living species? And because I'm always fascinated by that. You just think like as humans, like we're around so long, so many have just a brief time on this planet, like butterflies.
Well, I think frogs are somewhere between butterflies and humans.
See, I didn't know that. See, I just know because I was looking up like once like for pets sometimes, and I go, I can't. I'm one of those people now would have to get like a tortoise because I can't take pet deaths. You know what I mean? I want something I'm going to pass on for like 100 years. I've had it like with dogs and everything else that just leaves me. So
it's so sad, yes, when one of our beloved pets dies. I don't keep amphibians as pets. The pet trade is one of the reasons for amphibian decline, but some frogs and are known to live like 20 years in captivity. Of course, we can't really measure how long they live in the wild, but they live a more dangerous life. So it varies from species to species, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's my problem with the pet trade, so-called, because it's so unethical in a lot of ways, and they just don't think of the environment or the animal or anything else.
That's right. I have a few frogs. At one point, we had up to 13 frogs in our own little tiny 5x5 pond at a frog house. Now we have, I think, 3 or 4. But I never pick them up, and the reason being is that I believe in the golden rule, do unto others as we would have done unto us, and I wouldn't want some big giant coming and picking me up and looking at me and turning me over and pulling my legs.
Well, I will say now, none of them ever caught them, so that's what I was fine with. But my dogs, like especially like at park, they would spend hours going around the pond, watching them and trying, and the best, like the frog would jump, hit it in the face, never would catch one, which was why I let her do it all the time, because I would have felt horrible. But it was always hilarious, and she would be there for hours. But then she noticed, like one time I was with my parents, and my dog's looking around, didn't realize they were going to get the car because they got sick of it, starts running. But one time I didn't see it, she bit a toad, and she paid the price for that.
Oh, yeah. She learned her lesson all right.
And what is the difference? Sure. Now, this one, what is the difference between frogs and toads?
Okay, great question.
Yeah, because I actually don't really know.
Well, let me ask you if you can guess. You have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. Is a frog a toad, or is a toad a frog?
Oh, goodness. Toad's a frog.
That's correct. That's actually absolutely correct. They are in the same family, but there are differentiating characteristics. Frogs breed and sometimes live in water, whereas toads almost exclusively live on land. They have thicker skin, wartier skin, and short, stubby legs as a few of the differentiating features.
Every year I love it. I welcome them in my garden.
Yay.
There's always these 3. I would they named them like after the dragons in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
year.
All right.
They're always around. I'm like, it's like, just do your job. Take care of whatever. Don't let them eat my pumpkins or whatever.
All right.
And they're awesome.
Here's to toads. So, in this area, we only have the American toad, and we have a few 7 species of frogs here in this part of the country.
we don't realize, I think, because I think we live in the now, especially these days, that we're just supposed to be like caretakers of the land. We're not supposed to ruin it.
Thank
Supposed to keep it
you.
on and preserve it. But I think most people just think short-sightedly. They don't realize, okay, well, let's destroy a forest. It'll grow back, or like we're going to use it for, okay, it's going to build this or that, or who cares about, I remember, unfortunately, one year, we had these, I remember like some people tearing some flowers down that were 100 years old. I just asked, why are you doing this? Like, oh, it's just a flower.
Right. Just a flower. Well, once I was in the parking lot of the Hungerford, the Hungerford building, and there was a wounded gull there. And so I stopped and called wildlife control, and I was waiting there with the bird for wildlife, and the manager came along and said, "What are you doing? It's just a bird." And I said, "It's a bird." So
that's like, one of my friends still has his studio in there, and a few others have. And I always used to go to the haunted Hungerford, but now it's a case I'm getting where I don't want to park. I don't, you get a little older, like you really don't want to. But I had mine where I was going down and take my dog for a walk by IBM by the trails. I see a turtle. It fell into a grate. So it's like sticking up. So I stop. I get out. So I'm holding my dog with one hand, trying to pry it out. And I get it out. I take it. I'm like, get away from it, Shadow. I took it down by the water and put it in there.
Did it swim away?
And it was fine.
Oh,
but
that's
it was stuck.
wonderful.
But I saw the thing. It just must have walked by the road and fell and its head in the grate. I was like, I just couldn't leave it.
I had a similar experience. I used to work at Cookton Springs Hospital, and I was driving in, and there was a turtle going around and around in circles. So I stopped, put it in a box, took it to the vet, and picked up the turtle the next day. It had an ear infection, so the vet had treated it, and I took it back to where it was. But the interesting part of that story was that that very same day, theoretically, a friend of mine had said I would be able to meet the Dalai Lama, but he never followed through with that, so it didn't happen. So I call that the day I met the Dalai Lama.
Well, my confession, too, last time I was at Lamberton, I stepped on a tortoise by mistake.
Oh.
But it was, I didn't see it. The thing was, nothing happened. What was just hysterical.
It has a hard shell for a reason, right?
Yes. But what was hysterical was I step on it. I'm like, oh, sorry. I get off. It sticks its head out, bites my sneakers, shoelace.
Yay.
But those are like, I guess they're used to people because they're always coming up or like, hi. It was really fun. I mean, those things too. I mean, they get a little running start. They can run through like a wall or something. They're awesome.
Yeah.
But realize too, people don't realize what would happen. Like, say we had a horror movie and all the frogs vanished. What would happen to the environment?
It collapse. As I said, they're keystone species, so they control the insect population below them, but they serve as prey for many, many predators above them. So, and if the predators die, then eventually we die, right?
It's the idea of the nail, not for the car, like the nail, the car hits the tire. This doesn't happen. This doesn't get there.
Right.
That type of thing.
Yes.
But people don't realize.
Chain reactions.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, you talked about, I'm a spoil sport. I'll see like friends, kids' pictures of them handling frogs, and I always say, because they're amphibians, they absorb through the skin.
Right.
And
exactly.
Really, okay. I don't want to be like. Sound like I'm a know-it-all, but okay, not even like wear gloves, because if you wash your hands, if you have the soap on, it's still going to get through their skins.
Yes, and lotions and things like that. That's such a good point, is that that's actually how the chytrid fungus spreads and kills amphibians, because they do breathe through their skin, and so if their skin is infected, their respiratory system's shut down.
And I was going to ask, too, yes, they're all probably like your children in a way, but do you have like some favorite species that you just think are neat or...
Well, I fell in love with the red-eyed tree frog.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, and it's so colorful. And so when I wrote the little book, Froggy Family's First Frolic, the red-eyed tree frog was the hero of that. And I went down to Costa Rica. I thought if I'm going to write about it, I really need to see some in real life. So I arranged a tour, and they sent me over to the other side of Costa Rica, and saw no frogs. Well, I saw some little red poison dart frogs that were in a little stream. But finally, the last night it rained, and we went out, and we saw some red-eyed frogs, but they weren't the red-eyed tree frogs. And I said, well, where are the yellow feet? Where are the purple sides? Where's the blue underbelly? And he said, oh, those are on the other coast. And it turned out, without my even knowing it, that there were hundreds of them in the hotel where we had stayed the first night.
They're the ones that have the little sucker hands. Like the little
Yes.
suckers, so the little sucker hands.
The tree frogs do have suckers so that they can run up the trees, and some male frogs have thumb pads because that's how they hold on to the female for amplexus, which I call leapfrog.
I remember my cousin was in Mozambique, and he said not frogs, but all over lizards everywhere. Lizards everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, I like just the ones that have the brilliant colors, like dart frogs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're called dart frogs for a reason, because if you've seen some movies like Apocalypto, what some of the native tribes would do is dip the arrows or the spears in them because there's a toxin on their
Correct.
skin.
That's exactly right.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, if you like to kill people.
In theory, in a book or something.
Right.
I mean, who thinks of that, though? There's a frog, I just dip this.
Yeah, well, I experience showed them, I guess. Maybe somebody died from...
Well, I've always had that about in terms of mushrooms and stuff. The first people who tried them, unfortunately, was trial and error with people. Because that's one of my little phobias where it's only a few I'll pick because I cannot tell the difference. I've read books and everything.
Uh-huh.
But now let's talk about your book you were talking about a little. It just came out, I think, September 23rd or around there?
Oh, no. My book came out years ago, before I started a Frog House. And so I had, I don't know, 100 copies. I've reprinted it 3 or 4 times, and now I'm down to only 4 copies left. So I keep promising my good friend Robert Putney of Impact Earth that I'm going to get some reprinted, but just the priority list. But I started. I was in a class where you were supposed to tell a story in paintings, and so I decided, of course, never wanting to do anything small, to do a whole book. And it took me a whole year, but I painted all the paintings, and I took the story from a little story that my late husband had made up. He made up 5 stories, I think, based on 5 different frog paintings, and I chose that one to modify for the book. And so it was a lot of fun and a lot of hard work, and I don't seem to know how to. I'm learning gradually from our daughter, Lindsay Graham, who's a chief marketer and a social media person. But I'm not one to be able to, monetize a lot of things. So thank goodness for her and her assistance in all of our efforts.
That's good. And I love the idea, too, in terms of being able to weave a story, just a picture or something. I always find that fascinating. Because in a way, a lot of musicians I know, they will see, I won't say they think differently, because they will see something we'll just take for granted and they'll get a whole song out of it.
Yes, probably Andy knows all about that. I was just listening to Go Where the Wind Blows that a friend sent me yesterday. It was all instrumental. And as you say, it was just an idea that became a beautiful melody.
There's one of those records I'd like to get still that I'm waiting for the price to go down. But Roger Glover of Deep Purple did it's like a frog's ball. It's like a very sounds like. I think Paul McCartney did something too like that involved like the Animals Ball or something, which is really. And there's Froggy Goes a Courtin' too, which is another.
Oh yeah, we sing that every year at our annual Froggy birthday party. Definitely, and the
do you
big
have
blue frog.
Do you have a themed cake for that or like? Something?
Oh yeah, you bet. It's one side is chocolate, the other is vanilla. We have green froggy ice cream, thanks to Pittsford Dairy. A shout out to Tops Market for providing the cake most years, and also to Wegmans for providing it. Bonnie Abrams is our singer, songwriter. She'll do you can buy a song, a custom made song from Bonnie. She's our event coordinator, and should be it will be what is the date today? The
20th.
The 20th. So the 27th. It will be after. I mean, it will be before this is broadcast, but October 27th will be. She'll be there and probably custom making songs for people.
Yeah, what the heck? We could broadcast it on Monday. What's the magic of podcasting? Scheduling, so make sure everybody knows all this stuff. What good is like, oh, I missed it. And you sent me in the email, there's a whole bunch of things you sent me coming up, like people and presentations and books and stuff.
Yeah, the main thing is, as I mentioned, the November 9th gala. Carol Demas is created the role of Sandy in the first original production of Grease on Broadway, and has been in many Broadway shows since then, and has continued to do benefit concerts and performances, and she's assisted by her partner Stuart Allen, who is a fantastic sound guy. Stuart has done the sound at the White House. He's done sound at the Olympics. And speaking of Andy Calabrese here, I don't know if you know Ian Herman, Andy, but he's a Broadway musical producer and pianist. So those three will be here, and they get up to $600 per benefit tickets. We figured that we would keep the price affordable. Hopefully it's affordable at $175 with an optional price for the payment for the Eventbrite price. But and there are scholarships available, presuming that we first pay our bills to the Century Club. So please consider being there on November 9th. We also have... I'm not sure exactly what the plans are. Bonnie's in full charge of our closing day next Sunday, but we might have some rock painting or face painting. We'll definitely have some seed balls, making seed balls. Again, I'm not sure what she'll have. I have a lot of native plants that are multiplying like crazy, so I will... and other gifts that people can get in return or not for a donation. We have some great before and after pictures to really motivate people, because, politicians will come and go, will be celebrating or grieving on November 9th or being held in suspense. But in any case... life will go on. Nature will heal itself somehow if we don't get in the way, as we so often do, and you alluded to. So the ponds, these vernal ponds, actually, when built properly, will last forever. And 90% of all wetlands across the United States, I believe is the correct statistic, have been drained for agriculture. And a lot of farmers use poisons on the land, so that after 3 or 4 years, and those poisons, by the way, coming from World War II chemical warfare, but after 3 or 4 years, they turn to dust bowls, and so we lose our water. the vernal ponds are beneficial not only for amphibian wildlife and all flora and fauna that are native, but they're also are water purifiers, and they're also climate coolers. So the more we're hoping that these vernal ponds will be an inspiration to people everywhere who know about them, to see how easy and inexpensive it is to do them. Each pond will cost only $8,000, which if you had an engineering firm come in to do it, our expert Tom Biebighauser says that it would cost 40 to 50 times that amount to build. So these are inexpensive, they're easy, they'll last forever and ever. He showed some pictures on the webinar, which I'll be putting on the website hopefully this week, that he showed some that were 2,000 years old and older, that had been hand built by human beings with sticks and stones and things like that. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say too, these days $175. Anybody look at concert tickets? That's a bargain.
I hope so.
And it is.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, something we don't realize being in this country, we are, despite everything swirling around, we are very blessed in a lot of ways. We don't get the idea of clean water and how so many places people are dying or are getting access to it. You don't realize that. In a lot of nations, how many people pass away because of the difficulties of that.
Oh, you're so right. And there are so many sensible solutions to that. I forget the name of the town and the state, but they decided 5 or 10 years ago to start collecting rainwater. Duh. You know, we just let ours run through chemicalized fields, run into sewage plants, run through all the chemical treatments, and then we produce it as water. But yeah, people are beginning bidding wars and starting wars over resources as they have been for billions of years.
That's so simple too. You think it's so one of those things that's so simple it takes forever to think of doing it because it is so simple.
That's right. Let's come up with a complicated solution.
That's
first,
my problem in life all the time. I have to complicate. But I want to talk about a little bit if people are going to see again. The Frog House is right on by the canal here in Pittsford, and if you could just the name, the address or whatever.
Right.
If you walk down the canal in Pittsford, literally under the bridge, you'll see it on the left.
Yes, that's exactly
that's
right.
It's great directions.
Third house on the left as you're going west on the canal path from Shane Place or Northfield Commons. So, and it's the third house on the right if you're going on the street. But it's really better and easier to come from the towpath and to park in Shane Place or in Northfield Commons. I guess I'm not supposed to. Wherever there's public parking, in any case.
No, there's there's literally public parking. That's the one thing I will give this town.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of public parking.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a couple hours. You don't have to be, unless you see something for this, which you really don't see that often around here, which I'm a parking nut. I was like, okay, where are we gonna park? So it's right down there, and there's so much interesting stuff in this little shack too.
Well, thank you for.
I thought it was. I got some stuff down there.
Oh, great! I'm glad you liked it. Yes. Well, there are paintings from my past. Back when I was at the Hungerford, there are those 4 remaining books. There are frogabilia galore. People have given me so many frog gifts over the last 10 at least years, maybe 12. And by the way, I do want to give a shout out to Save the Frogs. Save the Frogs is an international organization, and mine is just a very, very local group. But Carrie Krieger, who is the founder of Save the Frogs, has been an inspiration to me. He's been very, very helpful. Right now, today October 20th?
Yes.
Today is the birthday.
Tricking me with dates. I'm so bad with them.
Is the birthday of my late husband, and it's the very day that Carrie Krieger is taking a trip to Borneo. And I had signed up for that trip, but unfortunately I can't go because of too many things to do, money, COVID, all the reasons. The gala, it's just a lot. But I wish him traveling mercies, and then on November 9th, which would have been our November 3rd, which would have been our 61st anniversary this year, he'll be doing an add-on in Borneo. But there will be another time when the stars are aligned, and I'll go on, I think, my 5th eco tour with Save the Frogs.
I wish I could learn to enjoy flying more.
Yeah.
That's my big problem. If I had like a Doctor Who, the TARDIS, or just like a transporter beam like Star Trek, I'd be all over the place.
Yes, let's have a Star Trek transport. Woo!
Yep.
I'm in Borneo.
Because that's the one thing, like when I flew to Russia, it's like I was dying. It was 8 hours or 12 hours, I think. But if you,
oh, my dear, that's another reason I didn't go to Borneo. It's a 36-hour trip.
Oh, I know 24 hours because I have people go to Japan. That's a little much, though. Then another thing you touched on very briefly, I was talking to some, with me, not interns or like some younger people. If people want to learn about frogs, there's like a program or something, or just like volunteer?
Well, it's more casual. Sutherland High School, I think she's the volunteer coordinator. Michelle Legg has been very helpful to a frog house over the years by sending students. So some have summer internships. College students get a wind of me and decide that they will volunteer. Or one of my best little, well, he's not little. He's graduated from RIT, but he came to a frog house 4 years ago, just before school started, with his parents. And 4 years later, almost to the day, he said, I just graduated from RIT. I remember you, and I remember your name. Your mother's name is Margot with a T, just like mine. So I frog. I fully rely on God or Gaia or goodness, or however you want to say it. But the universe, fate and universe don't start with G. Come on now, but as would be a G. So anyway, things happen, and I don't. Like that song that my friend sent me. Her name is Minda. Best friends forever since Bennington College. She what did I say the name of the song is? Fly Go with the Wind. Yeah.
But things have happened to me which we're not going to get into. That I'm convinced there's like something out there that has, because things that I've gone through in life, and I think that's if anybody, I don't want to call it the force or something, or just if you go like Bruce Lee said, be like water, just go with the flow. It's amazing what it'll take.
That's right. And the water is always, you can't put your foot in the same water not only twice, but once, because the river is always the same, right? But the water is always different.
What I love about this, too, is you might have somebody come down, like a younger person, see all this stuff, they have a little bit of interest, and I love when somebody has an interest, something pushes it, and you might have the next person here who's going to be, this is going to be their life's call. You never know.
I hope
always
so.
That one person or something, then they'll remember like years ago, well, I didn't really know when I sort of was into this, I couldn't really find anything on it. Read some books, but then I found this, and it spurred me on.
Yeah, you never know. And I heard that if God is using you, you probably don't know it. If you think that you're having an influence, it's probably not God.
No. Now, this is like the Halloween season. Is there any movies, frog-based, you like, or anything?
Well, Kermit, of course. I mean, obviously, all the Kermit movies and productions, we were big fans and still love him.
Speaking of that, well, there's something at the end I'll talk about on that.
Good.
But one of the things, it's Halloween season. Did you ever seen, there's a 1970s film with Ray Milland called Frogs. It's about all these people at a mansion where nature just turns against them because they've been screwing up the environment so much.
Sort of like the plague of Egypt or something.
Done that just for no reason. I love, why do you have to explain everything? Just have fun. You go, and all of a sudden, everybody, frogs and snakes and gators want to kill everybody.
Wow.
It's fun. It's, just taking photos. Not saying it's good, but it's a fun movie.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll look it up.
But yes, it is, and you have to realize on this show, we go, stuff we talk about, like for film and music, can get a little weird. So, but this has been a lot of fun. This has been a hopping good time, sorry.
Oh, wonderful.
Everybody will be green with envy when they hear it.
Oh, you go.
No, if Greg ever we have to get him turned back by the time we have our Halloween show, but he would be making the puns galore. He's a drummer.
Oh, okay.
So just be warned, he's a drummer. But I want to make sure we get all the information here out, like where we can find the site and everything.
Okay, well, it's a very easy site. It's afroghouse.org. Remember, it's not Afro House, it's afroghouse.org. And you can always write to me at Margot with a T at afroghouse.org. It's 65 State Street. Again, you can always arrange with me to have a special visit on a Tuesday or a Friday or on the weekend. Just by letting me know, text FROG to 585-733-0563, 585-733-0563. Just text FROG because I don't answer numbers that I don't know.
Oh,
don't know.
That's a big thing with me lately, where I'm getting the spam calls.
Oh, gosh.
Which I love. I have to say, a lot of them are Luddite, but I love this because I don't recognize the decline block.
Right, exactly.
Because I think they sell your number or whatever. Thinks that's a good strategy.
Yeah.
But I actually really want to thank you for being on too. I love to see people. It's a crazy world, and I recommend something talked about a little bit. Go take a walk in the woods. Get away from it all. I know you want to pick this off. Even I'm like Pavlov's dog when it pings, unfortunately. Just go out in the woods. Be nature. Just soak in the beauty with nature.
Yes, my friend who sent me the song, Minda, she said, I don't need to go out in the park to reflect because I always am reflecting, and I didn't say yesterday, but I'll tell her if she doesn't hear this podcast. Minda, you can go outside in nature to experience nature.
Now, I don't know, like, whatever created the universe, if it's whatever. I don't know why they created mosquitoes. I can do without them, but I'm sure they serve a purpose. But but otherwise, no, just go out. You'll be amazed. You'll see. Let's look at the plants. Like, I'll say, oh, it's bamboo. Oh, look at this. Look at this bird. It's different. It takes your mind off everything. It's like a nexus where you're away from all this stuff, which is just wonderful, and you'll be calm because there's so much anxiety, so much division these days.
I'm glad you mentioned calm because, first of all, mosquitoes they're food for frogs. So let's not forget that. That's why I love
frogs even more.
They're also also people worry that vernal prawns will attract mosquitoes. There will be larvae mosquitoes, but the frogs will eat them. The tadpoles will eat them. Damselfly larvae will eat them. Dragonfly larvae will eat them. And if they happen to grow into mosquitoes, if they're so lucky, the grown forms of those species will eat them. So they're actually a good control for mosquitoes. So if you have too many mosquitoes, get some vernal prawns.
I'm sorry to be cruel, but good for them. Eat them.
Well, no, I mean, you mentioned calm, so I want to say that mosquitoes don't bite me, and bees don't sting me. I will go right in the garden, right amongst all the bees, and I think it's because I love them. I say, hi, bees, how are you doing? And they buzz around. But if you're scared of any animal, they will sense that, and they will bite or sting or something like that. If you wave your arms around, they'll sting you.
I've always looked at the relationship with animals as if you can get to the point where they don't fear you, you don't fear them.
Exactly.
And that's happened. I'll just really quick story. We go get honey out in Hamlin, and I walked in the bar, and there's bees all over the place. And I'm like going to be like that bad remake of The Wicker Man, all the bees. But no, I just stood calm. They're doing their job. They're not bothering me. Now, yellow jackets, I don't want to get into.
Right. That's true.
They've gotten me doing the grass, and they've gotten me in the woods enough times. But that's just their life. That's what they do. It's not like they're malicious. I still could do without them. But
Right, they're protecting their territory.
Yeah. This has been lots of fun and much success to you.
Thank you.
And the thing is, we have to mention, we have a very, very special treat. We're going to have the Rainbow Connection, is it, with our dear Andy. You'll be green with envy at the way he does this. So thanks.
Okay.
And thanks a
Thank
lot. Go
you.
check this out. It really is an awesome place.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.